This is me happy. I mean, congratulations, you did it.
Now, the one thing that would truly make Carol happy, it seems like it's possible, setting the world back to the way it was, the same old miserable place, where she could feel safe, alone with her secrets, no personal intrusion. But Carol's happiness was short-lived. While there may be an answer to a cure to this virus, figuring it out is easier said than done. As Sun Tzu once said, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Carol is starting to learn more about the Hive, how they operate, their programming, but she's still on a journey learning about herself, because that's the key to her happiness. What she really wants isn't isolation, it's real human connection. She wants love. Let's break it down. Okay, we're going to start off with the mystery man from Paraguay, Manousos Oviedo. We see that he's holed up in a storage facility, a place he apparently worked at or owned prior to the world ending. He's even more suspicious of the Hive than Carol is, if you can believe it, completely attempting to go it alone. He won't even touch the food the Hive brings to him, using a stick to stick it to him by knocking that shit over. He resorts to eating old, canned dog food. He'd rather fend for himself than accept any help from the Hive. His version of Sosha is an elderly woman, a motherly-looking figure, an abuelita, perhaps his own mother. But the Hive's manipulation, it doesn't work on him like it does with Carol and how they used Sosha. And the other thing about him that the show highlights in the brief time that we see him is that he has hope. He's not purely doom and gloom. He believes there's others out there like him, or at the very least, at some point, the world will be set right. He makes sure to write a notice to the customers at the storage unit about him breaking into their lockers, promising he will compensate them. And he spends his time scanning radio stations, meticulously checking off one by one for any live broadcasts that might be out there. Now, this reminds me a lot about how, in the beginning of the series, the scientists at the Radio Astronomy Observatory in New Mexico, they scan the universe for any potential signal, checking every inch of the galaxy, like a radio station, for some sign of intelligent life to communicate with. I also wonder, I mentioned in episode 1 breakdown how the acting president calls out how all cellular networks were down and how I thought this might be a clue about radio waves or signals interfering somehow with the hive mind. Now, this could all just be a more simple explanation, like the Hive took it down as a kind of military tactic to prevent humans from communicating and fighting back against the virus. And really, they don't need to communicate with radio or cell phones or internet or any of that shit with the Hive. But I love me some fun conspiracy theories when it comes to shows like Pluribus, so I can't help but think that there will be something more to the radio stuff that comes up later. Now, after Manousos' little tiff with Carol on the phone, he writes down Carol as Sturka, I think mistaking her last name Sturka. It seems he realizes she's not like the Hive. I mean, she cusses him out and they would never. The ball, it seems to be in his court now. I don't think Carol will attempt to reach out to him again at any point. So does this mean he will break his strict no contact with the Hive and ask them for help to get back in contact with Carol? We know his character will be back next episode. He's listed in the cast. So it'll be interesting to see how his story intersects with Carol's. At some point, their paths will cross again. Now, speaking of Carol, let's get to her. She was doing a lot of scheming this episode. Her initial plan to enlist other immune people has pretty much failed. I mean, at least for now. And she sort of acted defeated, like she was just gonna give up and seclude herself to bed rot in her house watching Golden Girls.
Life sucks.
But after the whole grenade situation, it sort of sparked something in her, a whole new realization that maybe there is something she can do on her own to fight back. She starts to whiteboard out what she knows about the infected, and oh my god, this reminds me of our boy Jim in From, if y'all follow that with me. If not, you should check out that show, it is amazing. But I digress. This whiteboarding, it's a common and effective technique, problem decomposition, often used in engineering or science fields. Your brain, it can only hold so many thoughts before things get foggy and unclear, so writing them down helps you break down complex issues into smaller, more solvable chunks. I feel like this also kind of further illustrates how non-affected humans use their brains. They can work through nuance and connect ideas on a whole nother level, something that the hive mind, they just can't. Like with the whole grenade and nuke situation. The virus, it makes humans more simple-minded, for lack of a better term here. They're only able to do so much with their thinking, as programmed within a set of rules. And normal humans, well, we're rule breakers and benders. We can twist things to have different meanings and think outside the box. If you haven't watched my episode 3 breakdown, we talked about Asimov's laws of robotics, how robots can only work within their programmed laws or rules. And we see Carol basically trying to figure out the Hive's rules. And she's finding out that, like with robots in Asimov's stories, the Hive can't reason, they can't make valuation judgments, they can't really effectively work through conflict, especially when it comes to their rules. So when Carol asked them about her book, what specifically they enjoyed about it, to give a real analysis about the character arcs and storylines.
In your first novel, we greatly admire the description of Lucasia's gown on page 2.
All of this Larry dude can provide are descriptors about the dress. This is because he's pulling data from all the minds who've read it, and this part of her writing was most remembered or positive. Something that did truly touch some people, but it's still not really answering her question.
How would you say my work compares to Shakespeare?
Equally wonderful.
And I mean, look, it's not truly an objective fact that Shakespeare is better than her books. While most people would agree, it's not like saying her house is definitely bigger than her car. It's not an objective fact. There are some people in the world who love her books that much, like the example of her fan Moira, who was pulled out of a deep depression because of Carol and her books. But yeah, in human culture, because of when Shakespeare wrote his plays, the impact they've had on society, how it was game-changing for its time, the inspo it created over hundreds of years, yeah, it's better. And what the Hive, they can't even piece together or discuss is that Carol, well, she referenced and took themes from Shakespeare for her book. When she's doing her whiteboard thing, we see her original notes for the Wycaro novel, and it's there. So they can only really interact based on their programming. And if the conversation isn't about making Carol happy, following explicit directives or orders, well, it kind of just stops there. You know, I was talking to another creator friend about AI, and this scene is like a live action roleplay of an interaction with ChatGPT. I mean, what is AI but a hive mind? Scouring the internet for all the different thoughts out there from real humans, and then using the billions and billions of thoughts and memories, ideas and stuff to come up with a generalized response. There's no real independent thought to it.
Romeo and Juliet.
Wonderful. Have you read the first quarto of 1597?
The copy of Romeo and Juliet that Larry mentions, well, it's famously known as the Bad Quarto. It's a version of Shakespeare's play that was compiled from memory by actors in his play. It's not quite the real thing and just bad. And this is the perfect analogy to what the hive mind is, to what AI is. A bad copy of real human thought, a crappy compilation from memory, but no real original thought. Larry's responses to Carol are just like how when you interact with ChatGPT, it can only give you some weird amalgamation of a conversation. It's programmed to always be pleasant in the interaction, to adjust as you say, to gas you up. Even when you press it, point out something is wrong or ask for some sort of criticism, it always is still candy-coated with fluff, always trying to be agreeable. Now, the problem with the Hive and AI is that it can't truly be critical. It can't ever create conflict. And that's precisely why Carol and the dude from Paraguay feel so strongly in opposition of the Hive. Why I think eventually the other immune people will come around to Carol's side, realize how uncanny and alien this all is. Now, you heard the saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. It's not just some Kelly Clarkson song, it comes from the philosopher Nietzsche. He believes that instinct, not pure logic or reason, is what truly drives happiness. That forced morality and ideals are anti-nature. There's a large, diverse range of human personalities and dispositions, and that's something that should be allowed, embraced. The diverse personalities that often can conflict with each other, well, that's natural, and that's something that allows for human growth. And like we talked about in the last episode, Carol's instinct is to be guarded, a little pessimistic and sarcastic, the dark humor and all that stuff. Although she did have problems before the virus, don't get it twisted, she was happy with Helen, someone who saw her nature and accepted it. Now, we've talked about another concept a lot in my other video, so I won't go too in depth, but Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, a shared set of identity and ideals that's across all humans. Well, there's a part of that that's called the collective shadow, and what we would consider more negative characteristics and aspects of humanity. The devil inside us tempting us to do bad shit, murder, lie, steal, whatever. Well, again, it's still an important part of our identity as a human species that we need to understand, embrace, and even confront. Face that inner conflict. That is the only way to feel complete and whole, to be happy. When you look at the Hive, all of this is removed. Our identity as humans removed. And all you're left with is an AI chatbot that's avoidant of conflict. It's something that's just not human. And that's why they can't truly lead Carol and the immune people to happiness. She's just left feeling uneasiness, anxiety, stagnation. Now, I'm with Carol on this one. The Hive isn't good for humanity, for the species. But perhaps it is better for the vitality of the world as a whole. Now, I want to go back to the rules or the programming of the Hive. There's definitely some sort of hierarchy to their rules. There's contradictions like when they can choose to kill 9 billion people in order to spread the virus, when it's in their rules that they can't kill. But they can't choose to say no to giving Helen a nuke, which could result in killing millions and billions of people. In episode 3's breakdown, I had my own list of sort of hierarchy of rules for the Hive. 1, ensure human happiness. 2, never harm living creatures. And 3, protect Earth's energy and resources. And when we compare it to Carol's list, I think really ultimately we both agree that it seems like the number 1 rule is to make people happy. And so by the Hive's rules, they do truly believe that making someone a part of the Hive will make them happy. Thus, this kind of explains overriding their rule about killing. The first directive is to make people happy. Spreading the virus, that completes that directive. And we see another contradiction to their rules. We can see that they can ignore Carol's request to keep Helen off limits if they think that they're using the information from Helen to make Carol happy. Like when Zosha finishes Carol's sentence about Norway in the ice hotel.
I told you that Helen was off limits.
But then, oh surprise, they can respect her ask when they think it would make her unhappy, like when she asks about Helen's thoughts on her books.
What did Helen think of the Wycaro books?
Carol, you expressly told us that Helen is off limits.
Even then, they still kind of skirt around any negative feedback, emphasizing the positives. Again, showing the happy rule is number 1 amongst all things. But the most important thing Carol seems to care about, and what she concludes, is that the Hive cannot lie. So she finally asked Zosha for help to reverse the joining. Make a cure, why not? Give it a shot. Carol realizes through her conversation with Larry about Helen's thoughts on her book, well, they know how to sort of skirt around an answer, so Zosha's non-answer kind of tells her everything she needs to know. But, one thing about the truth about Helen's thoughts on Carol's book, Bitter Chrysalis? Well, Helen, she lied to Carol to make her happy. For me, it's another realization, like the whole scene with the groceries, that things aren't really that different. Just like the Hive would do anything to make Carol happy, Helen would too, even lie. In Carol's conversation with Zosha at the hospital, she brings up Freedom Falls.
She sent you to conversion therapy camp Freedom Falls.
This reveals so much about Carol's rejection of the Hive. She's been through something so similar. The whole world telling her that who she is wrong. That she'd be so happy if she was just like everyone else.
I do not want that.
You want to change us too, don't you? We know what it feels like to be you. We've been you, but you've never been us.
And while the Hive knows what it's like to be the Hive and she doesn't, well, it's no different to Carol than someone saying she doesn't know what it's like to be straight. It's irrelevant. Her sexuality is her nature, her instinct, her identity, and she's again being told who she is as a person is wrong. Her instinct to be isolated and secretive with her relationship with Helen, happier in her own little world, it makes so much more sense now. It's not just her nature, it's how she's had to survive. And what's interesting is the Hive says they accept all people, yada yada, but really at the end of the day, if you're part of the Hive, you don't really have romantic relationships anymore. They don't view sexuality in the same way, as we saw with Mr. Air Force One and all the models. Carol, she has fought her whole damn life to be who she is, and she's not gonna let the Hive take that from her. Now, when she doesn't really get anywhere with Zosha on her questions about a cure, she concocts another little scheme. She gets a drug from the hospital to first test out at home, and so she records herself and finds it suitable. I mean, she's looking for something that will really loosen someone up, remove their inhibitions. And for her, when she says that Zosha's fuckable, it really proves that, that's really her inner thoughts. She is starting to have a little crush on her and have feelings for Zosha that she really does not want to admit. This drug's a winner, and so she decides to take it back and use it on Zosha to get her to reveal what she knows about the cure. But it doesn't work as planned. As soon as she starts to pressure Zosha for the truth, the other hive mind shows up and tries to stop her. And we see them all crying, begging her, please stop.
Tell me. Tell me.
It's kind of like the violent outbursts that sort of brain break the Hive. So does this conflict between making Carol happy and curing the virus. The hive mind, again, going back to their rules, their programming, they're stuck in a sort of paradox or race condition. Its main goal is to make people happy. To the Hive, that means infecting everyone. But Carol wants a cure, so it's stuck in a loop, trying to satisfy both and failing at both at the same time. It literally hurts them, kills them. And so as the episode ends, Carol's left feeling guilty yet again for harming Zosha again. But this kind of takes us back to the whole whiteboard thing in Carol's house. On her notes about Wycaro, she talks about killing Raban, this time for real. I mean, it's crazy how this parallels how she almost killed Zosha like 3 times now. She's living her novels in real life. We know, at least in the latest novel, that Raban lives, so I think we can expect Zosha to survive this whole situation. But there may be more foreshadowing from Wycaro. We also see on the whiteboard there's a bit about the main character going in disguise as a pirate. I think a reference to Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, involving a messy love triangle, which I think indicates that at some point Carol and Zosha, they'll fall in love. I mean, we already see that kind of starting with Carol admitting that she wants to, We also see something about a love potion. Maybe there is some sort of cure and she ends up creating, or the drug she gave Zosha does the trick. Or maybe it's just love that is the cure, the potion, so to speak. That if she can somehow get Zosha to fall in love, she becomes human again. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this all below in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please ensure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more breakdowns. Special thanks to my channel members for throwing a little extra support my way. This means the world to me, and it really does help keep my channel going and alive, so thank you so much. Until next time, toodles!